Okay, this is a friend of mine who has just purchased a Honda Civic TR.
Yeah, Type R, yes.
Or Type R. As you can see, I don't know anything about cars, but he is an expert on this car, and I thought I would share this with you, and you will get a good idea of what this fine-tuned machine will do. Okay, I'll turn it over to my friend.
All right, hello everyone. This is my 2023 Honda Civic Type R. This car, as many of you know, because if you're watching this video, you're probably an enthusiast who knows about this car. I won't go into too many details, but this is Honda's basically flagship car right now. It's the most powerful car Honda has ever sent to North America, even more powerful than the NSX that came out back in the day. The car has a K20C1 engine, makes about 315 horsepower and about 310 foot-pounds of torque. That's run through the front wheels only through a 6-speed manual engine. One of the best 6-speed manuals I've ever driven, and it's just a great all-around machine. It's about 3,300 pounds or so.
Louder.
And yeah, about 3,300 pounds. So the car itself is rather exclusive from Honda. Engine's actually built in North America, but then they ship the engine back to Japan, and then it's assembled in Japan. So as you can see, as the camera comes around, a little bit wider grille opening than regular Civics because you do have a front mounted intercooler. It's a single scroll turbo, makes a little bit more torque down at the low range, and then carries it through to the roughly 7,000 RPM red line. Lots of cooling on this car because that was an issue with the previous generation Type R, which was called the FK8. This one is called the FL5, and they wanted to address the cooling issues because these cars are designated for track use. You can see that they have sticky rubber on them, very thin profile tires, 265/30 19s. The tires, because of that small cross section of 30, are kind of prone to blowouts, and I know that because I had a blowout on the way to Las Vegas to visit and hit a pothole. So rear tire blew out, the rim is damaged, but that just means I have to get aftermarket rims and tires a little bit early. Some nice stopping power with the Brembo brakes here, and these are the Pilot Sport 4S's. Not the stickiest tire. You could actually get a slightly stickier tire from the factory, but I'll probably go with RT660 Falcon Azenis or something like that on an 18-inch wheel. Give me a little bit more sidewall height, a little bit more flexibility in driving, and a lot more protection. And then with the 200 tread wear tire versus this, which is a 300 tread wear tire, I'll have a little bit more grip when I take on racetracks. So all in all, it's a great car. I'll show you the interior. The seats are some of the most comfortable seats I've sat in. Purpose built for the racetrack. Great bolstering, side support of course, and they're actually designed to have a harness bar in the back, which is why you have the pass-throughs for the 5-point harness seatbelt.
Where's that?
Oh, right there in the seat where you see those two holes. Those are the pass-throughs. So if you have a roll bar in the back, you would bring both straps of the seatbelt through that and hook it onto your belt. Manual adjustments only on the seat, which I like, keeps the weight of the car low. Not like the sister car to this, which is the Integra Type S, which is, you know, heated seats, adjustable, has a different type of interior. The bolstering isn't as good, but that's a great car on its own. But this car, just the feel of it, the way it drives, probably the best driving car I felt since driving my friend's GT3 Porsche. I call it a hatchback that Porsche made, or Porsche, as some people say.
Tell us about the inside.
Oh, well, check out the inside here. As you start it up, you can see it's an all-digital dash. There are a lot of modes that you can go through. Telling me to fasten my seatbelt here. We're now in comfort mode, softest suspension, easiest on the steering wheel, but you do have some different drive modes. If I put it in sport, that'll stiffen up the suspension and the wheel a little bit, as well as the throttle response and a few other goodies. And then you have individual mode, where you can customize the car to give it the Plus R dash and maybe the Plus R sound, softer suspension and things like that. And then finally you have Plus R mode. That's basically your racing mode, stiffest suspension. You can check out all the cooling and things like that. When you go to the head-up display, of course you have all of your apps. I'll make sure the radio is down so we don't have any licensing issues. But among the apps, one of the best things we have is the Honda Log R for when you're on the racetrack. So it's stopped here just because we're not racing, but you have all of your readouts for your pressures, fuel and oil, things like that. Very nice. And then you have your G meter. As you drive around, it'll tell you how your car is balanced on the track, as well as a dedicated G meter, and it does it in 3D as well, so you can see your car as it's moving about. And then you actually have track apps that will only be shown when it's logging the data, but it will give you information on acceleration, braking, cornering, your overall time, and your G meter. So you'll do that when you're actually on the racetrack, and that's one of the things about this car. It's dedicated for the racetrack. Outside of that, most of the controls are physical, as you can see. Very nice clicky feel to all the controls here. Wireless charge pad for your phone, and a good place to place it as well. And your drive mode selectors, and a good, very good six-speed shifter. Like my other car is a Mazda Miata MX-5, the ND2, and this and that have the best shifters I've felt in a long time. Very good from Honda, straight up. So wonderful car, great space on the inside, and I'll show you the trunk because it's also a very practical car.
Trunk and the engine. There we go.
All right. Well, we'll start at the trunk and move towards the engine. Lots of space in the back seat as well. I'm 5'8". Have a lot of space behind myself. Good knee room, great headroom. Just fun to be in this car. It's only a 4-seater. Middle seat is gone. This is where you would just put your drinks. No armrest. It's in the interest of being light. At least it has the red seat belts, because other than that, the front seat's got all the attention. The carpet and the mats are actually red from the factory. I went and put in Tux mats. These Tux mats cover up a lot, but you can see where there's a little bit of red from where the original carpet is. That would get dirty very fast. So I put in these nice Tux mats, and that's gonna help. I could probably take this off now, huh? There we go. Well, let's check out the trunk. The seats do recline. Not recline, sorry. The seats do come forward. So it's practical as a hatchback. Gives you a lot of space. I'm here on a trip, of course, so the trunk has my stuff in it. But you can see it has a little privacy glass here for filter. Another privacy filter here that's removable. You can pop this out if you need to. But lots of space for a small car. Mid-size, as my buddy Fred says, not actually compact anymore. But just gives you everything that you really need and not too much of what you don't. So, very enjoyable. Very good as a single-use car for someone who wants to move their family around, drive to work.
Automatic or?
It's not automatic, but it's very light. And it's powerful enough to lift it up with this huge wing that you have on the back, which is functional.
Lifted by that.
Right, you're not really going to feel anything under 100, 110 miles an hour, but over that, that's when it really gets
So the soccer
stability.
mom can't come up with her grocery bag and go.
There's no foot control. It's old school kind of car. Down here you'll see the 3 tailpipes. Basically, when you're changing the inside, the sound of the car, the straight pipe is in the middle. It has a baffle that actually flips. Most of the time the sound will come out through these 2 pipes, but once you put it in the race mode, it eliminates these 2 and allows the pipe to come, the exhaust to come straight through the middle, basically giving you a straight pipe car, and that's when you really need the car to breathe very well. So let's take a look at the engine. Alright. You have a prop rod, you know, no hydraulic lifts, but that's okay. Doesn't matter. So as I mentioned, K20 C1 engine. You can see that its turbo is up in front, nice and easy to nice and easy to take care of if you're going to be doing any work on it. And there's still a decent amount of space if you do need to get to the turbo. You can see how large this radiator is. I don't know if you kind of duck in and look this way. That's a massive radiator for a 2-liter engine. And then you have the intercooler mounted out in front of that. There you go here, and then the intake plenum and mass center over on this side is fed by nice little cold, I call it a cold air intake because it's separated out from the rest of the vehicle to get your air drawn in, up and around through. You're basically a ram air if you look at it coming in through here. And then your heat exciser, so this will pull and draw heat out of the engine because this engine does make a lot of heat. And that's one of the reasons why the FL5 Type R is a little bit different from the FK8 Type R. They have a hood scoop that pulls in air. This one has a heat extractor because they've been working on keeping the heat down in the car as much as possible.
Fuse box?
Yes.
Fuse box.
Fuse box there.
Battery?
Battery is, of course, kept nice and tight.
It has its own case.
Mm-hmm.
Anything else in here we should know?
Probably not anything more than 100 YouTube reviews I've seen, but basically it's just a good looking engine, plastic intake plenum cover, but you know, most of the folks are plastic. Mazda Miata is aluminum, but you know, you're pretty much going to have a plastic valve covers on most other cars, and it doesn't look like much, but this cover makes it nice and easy to see. Kind of pretty.
Mileage
is, or MPG?
MPG.
Not too bad for this
top
car.
Speed.
Yeah, not too bad for this car. So MPG on this car, if I remember correctly, on the freeway it's around 28, about 20 around town, and then you have an average of about 22 to 24. I think top speed is close to 160. Kind of limited by the big rear wing, which does produce a lot of downforce and drag at higher speeds. 0 to 60, if you can dance on your toes and the gear shifter without really lighting up the front wheels, should be right around 5 seconds. I've heard that some people have gotten it just under 5 seconds. But this isn't a straight line car. It's designed to go around corners and brake hard. It has the front wheel record at Suzuka, I believe, and a couple other tracks. I don't think they ran this one for the record at Nürburgring, but they did do some testing at the Nürburgring in Germany, where the FK8, the previous generation of this car, did hold the record. So,
for the benefit of the viewers, is there something you don't like about this or could be improved?
Yes. There's a couple of things that other people complained about that I don't mind too much, but I do wish it could be improved. They pipe in sound. Almost any efficient engine nowadays, especially a 4-cylinder engine, they really don't sound that good. A couple of exceptions, like with a Subaru WRX, it has that boxer engine that sounds pretty good. And even the 3-cylinder out of the GR Corolla has a nice little growl to it. And of course, like a 5-cylinder on the Audis. But most 4-cylinders don't really have a great sound due to the emissions regulations on how they design the engine. So they pipe sound in, and the fake engine noise that they do pipe in, which is necessary because if you're on a racetrack and wearing a helmet, it's hard to hear your shift points. You want to hear the engine and be able to shift the car. This does have shift lights, but you still want to drive with your eyes on the road.
You're telling me they put fake noise in
fake noise so that you hear the engine, and it doesn't sound as good in Plus R mode as I would like it to sound. So some folks will defeat that. In other cars they do it a lot, like the GR86 has that same thing. A lot of these modern sports cars that are 4-cylinder have that fake engine sound, and they'll defeat that. Some cars like a ND Miata actually have a sound tube, so it's not a fake engine noise. They just run a tube from the engine into the cabin and you actually hear the engine louder. I wish they kind of did a sound tube here, but I don't think this engine sounds very good. The car is also not that loud, which is okay because I'm 54 years old. I don't need it to be really loud, and I got to play the age card. But because of that, if it could be a little bit louder on the rear, like the Acura Type S, the Integra, that I'd like as well. So those are a couple of things I don't like. And then again, as I mentioned, I hit a pothole and blew out a tire and actually damaged a rim, so I don't like the 30 series tires. I'll swap these out. I believe these rims and tires are 19 by 9.5 with the 265/30 series tires on it. I'm going to go to an 18 by 10 and have a 275/35. So it'll give me a little bit higher sidewall, a little bit wider, and a stickier tire if I could go with the Azeni RT660s. And then because of the smaller wheel diameter, I have more choices on tires. Hopefully a little less weight, even though these are lightweight wheels from the factory. And as you know, unsprung weight, which is weight that is not under the suspension, taking off pounds from that gives you basically a 4-to-1 reduction in weight. So if you can take away 10 pounds off the wheels and tires, it's like taking 40 pounds off that corner of the car, because it's unsprung. It's actually the weight that's sitting on the ground.
So this is not the Honda Civic that I'm used to, which used to be the entry level for the teenagers as they got their first car.
No, it isn't. It's, I'm sure, what they aspire to. This car was actually engineered and designed for the track, and it's one of Honda's long-running halo cars. So it's a limited run. I don't know the numbers. This one is chassis 13841. The FK8s, I believe they made 40,000 of those worldwide. That's the previous gen car. 40,000 of those worldwide, and 20,000 I believe came to the United States. So when I had the opportunity to get this car, I said, let me try to snatch it up. They are hard to get. There are dealer markups on there, and you still have to fight for it to get even a low markup like I did, but it's hard to get these at MSRP unless you don't live in California. You know, if you're somewhere else in the country, you might be able to find one without markup, but they're very exclusive cars, very hard to get. I'm going to drive this. I'm going to take it to the track. I'm going to drive it a lot. I love this car. I'm not planning on flipping it, but if you do plan on selling it in the future, you'll probably get money back on it. It's a great investment car, but like I always say, don't drive it as an investment car. It's a consumable. You buy something like this, enjoy it. You own the car. Don't let the car own you. Don't be afraid of little nicks and things like that, because you want to enjoy your hard-earned money. And this car, as I said before, is one of the best driving cars I've ever been in. And my hobby is sports car racing. I've been doing racing for 20 years at various tracks in Southern California and Southern Nevada, Pahrump and the Speedway. And out of all those cars, this is among the top, along with a GT3 Porsche and a fine-tuned ND2 Miata. Makes more power than the Miata, but it's maybe not quite as fun, but it's a blast to drive.
So I do not want to know how much you paid for it, but what does a vehicle like this cost?
The MSRP
on average.
The MSRP on these vehicles are right around 44 to 45,000, depending on the options. And there's not a lot. The options are basically wheels. Some of them come with a little bit larger tires. Well, not larger tires, but stickier tires, and different wheels that are raised forged, I want to say, or is it Enkei forged? That I'm not 100% sure about. That's going to pretty much be your only options outside of colors, which would be like a $495 for certain colors. Most of the markups on these cars, if you go to certain websites or even stop into dealers where you can find these cars, can be between $15,000 and $25,000 of markup, which would make this, on the sticker, a $75,000 car. Nobody should be buying this car for that amount, but I'm sure there's rich guys out there buying it for that amount. In my personal opinion, and one of the reasons why I went ahead and bought this even with a slight markup, is because I believe this car is a $50,000 car. I do believe it's worth more than the MSRP of 45 grand. So I said to myself, if I could find one for 50,000, then I would go ahead and purchase it, knowing that I'd probably get that money back if I needed to. But again, I see myself now in 2023, and I look at certain cars that are 20 or 30 years old that I say, I wish I could have that car. Like if I had bought that car 30 years ago, I would have kept it and it would be a perfect car. That's what I see in this car. So I'm hoping in 2063, when I'm a really old guy, I can give this to my niece or my nephews and say, hey, I have a 30-year-old car that is still much revered and haloed in the automotive world. So I'm not expecting to sell it, which is why I didn't want to spend more than 50 grand on it, but I thought it's worth it for that amount, the exclusivity, the quality. You know, it's a well-built engine, should be very reliable, decent gas mileage, very comfortable on the inside, a lot of space, almost like a hatchback. And then again, the driving feel is incredible.
Well, you've done so well with this interview, which we thank you for.
Oh.
Are you associated with Honda in any way?
No.
You seem to know more about it than the average salesperson does.
Because I like to watch videos on this car, and then I also, again, being a race car driver for, amateur race car driver for a while now, 20 years, and an instructor. I've driven the FK8 Civic Type R, which is the previous gen car, several times on track, and basically started learning more about the car. But this is actually only the third Honda that I've had. Our family had a SI, and that was the 8th gen SI. And then when I was a young guy, my dad bought a Honda Prelude and a Honda CRX for the family, and I was able to drive both of those because I was about 15 and just learning in Miami. Love those cars as well. The seats in the Honda Prelude were some of the best seats I've ever sat in until I sat in this. Okay. So yeah, it's a fantastic car. I love it, and hopefully next time, I appreciate you interviewing me about this car, which is only 2 weeks old and has already been one of my favorite cars I've ever owned. Hopefully next time I can bring up the ND2 Miata, which has some tasteful mods on it, and we could talk about that car, or my pickup truck.
Well, we will certainly look forward to that, and thanks again for sharing your Honda Civic TR, correct?
Yes, indeed. Honda Civic Type R. Yes, thank you, sir.
So again, for those of you, I don't know anything about cars, but I think we've been educated about this particular car. And now you will have some idea of what it does and what to expect and what to ask about when you go to your dealership.